I don't mind saying it. I'm like 69 years old, and I want to be able to keep moving into, my 90s. I would like, So yeah, and I did just retire, so I'm used to a life of like just go, 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 and not really paying attention to my body.
After retiring as a school principal, Betty thought retirement would finally give her more time to enjoy life. But after returning from a trip to Europe, she suddenly found herself struggling just to walk across her house.
And I have a pretty high pain threshold. I think I can tolerate a lot of pain. I would say 8 or 9, just walking. Plus, I didn't want to go anywhere. I couldn't even think about, if someone said, "Do you want to go?" Even if you want to go to the mall or something like that, I couldn't think, I can't go from one store to the next store or anything like that. All of those things just sort of were off the table. I couldn't do it because I worked a long time, and I don't want to, I didn't want to have my life just sitting around and using a walker, things like that. I did have some symptoms, like I think in June of last year, that were just nagging little things. And then I went on a big trip to Europe for 5 weeks. And when I got back, I couldn't walk very far. I couldn't walk from my door to the kitchen without limping. I started really getting this pronounced limp. And then I thought, well, I have to do something about it.
Betty says finding a clinic felt overwhelming until she discovered mobile physiotherapy.
More than most people think they need to do more stretching, but actually a lot of times when people are complaining that their muscles are tight, it's also because their muscles are weak. And so I would also switch it and actually say that I would recommend strength exercises more so than stretches for the most part.
I think it was a little bit daunting to me to find a physiotherapist, for one thing, like a clinic that I wanted to go to, and then they started this mobile thing, and I thought, well, I'm going to try that.
We started here, that's where you're ending up, but I'm getting you into a start position.
Like at first, I had to just tell myself that this is the only way that I'm going to get better. If I really want to be, walking or set my goal, I think when I first met her, I said, I'd like to be able to walk for half an hour without any pain. And I think that was my motivation. Like, I really want to be able to walk like a normal person, and that's in the back of my head all the time. I don't want to get to a place where I can't walk anymore. I look outside and I see people that are just walking, and I can take it for granted. And I have grandkids too. I really want to be able to enjoy them and take them places and, play with them. And so I want to not be limping around when I'm doing that with them.
It's greater trochanter pain syndrome. I would say the traditional, or maybe what it was called 20 years ago, was bursitis, because the idea is that underneath the muscles, there is a bursa, which is like a fluid-filled sac that is kind of like think of it like a cushion or a sponge. It kind of helps cushion things. And so the theory is that instead of it being more of a muscular issue, it was actually more related to an inflammation, or like a inflammation of that bursa. However, there are no, like in more like MRI or studies that they did more like kind of invasive look at what was going on actually at the tissue level, they actually found that it wasn't, for most people, it wasn't a bursitis. It was actually the muscles itself, the contractile tissue, that was causing the pain. But one thing I'm working on a lot with people is this idea of functional resiliency. So it's this idea of like maintaining your capacity or your function for as long as possible. I think for a long time we were really pushing towards quality of life. And I think a big part is the importance of trying to maintain your function or even improve your function as you age, so that you're able to kind of meet the capacity or the demands of your life. So for a lot of us, it might not be the same demands that was when you were 50 or 30 years old, but it's the demands of, like, for example, carrying your laundry bin up the stairs, or it's being able to stand and cook for like a whole meal. Like, those things are really meaningful to people. So I often treat a lot of clients that are just wanting to work on like building their functional capacity or their ability to move well within like the space that they have. Or do things like get on and off the floor to play with their grandchildren. So that's a big component. But I also treat a lot of older adults, like for falls prevention or preparedness. So I've actually been doing a series at a few of the residencies on kind of preventing falls, but also getting more comfortable with the floor. Because a lot of research is showing that the biggest thing is that if you can get more comfortable with getting on and off the floor, that will build your confidence up and actually surprisingly reduces your risk of falling as well. I tell people that getting on and off the floor, so like when you're gardening, for example, or when you're cleaning something, is really critical and actually is a telltale sign of how much arm and leg strength you have. Same thing as like people don't think about this as an exercise, but just standing up from a chair and without like having the ability to do that without using your hands actually translates a lot into your falls risk and also is a big indication of like your leg strength as well.
And what can physio do for that?
So physio, one of the nice things about physio, especially what I do with clients, because everything that I do is one-on-one, is that I tailor the exercises based on what you're working on or your goals. And so we work a lot on exercises that are really specific to you. And the nicest thing about mobile physio is that I come to you and then I am able to kind of almost curate exercises that are based on your home environment. Because sometimes when you go to a clinic, they might give you a few exercises, but you might actually need certain equipment to do it. Where when I'm with the home, sometimes I have to be pretty creative at like what exercises I give people, just so that I make sure that they're able to do them safely and well in their home. It also is a nice thing, I would say, like one of the privileges of being able to go to someone's home is that the exercise adherence or the commitment to doing them afterwards, because it's in your home. I show you where to do them. I say, you know what, can you tailor these to when you're drinking your morning coffee or when after you're brushing your teeth in the morning. So I find like it's really helpful because one of the biggest barriers that we find with clients is their ability to do their exercises consistently. I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but there was a big the American sports medicine guidelines just were released regarding resistance training recently in the last 6 months, like a new kind of guideline. And the biggest thing that they highlighted is with exercises is it's not even as much as what exercises you're doing, it's the consistency. Recommending at least 2 times a week, if not 3, to do some resistance training. And like specific or major muscle groups in your body is what you're wanting to focus on.
And then when you're giving clients homework,
do
you want them to do it how long?
I usually tell people, so as we were talking about with Betty, I often for clients, because sometimes when I give too many exercises, it can be pretty overwhelming. And so I like to just say, okay, for this time or before I see you next, just focus on 2 or 3 exercises. I usually tell people to do them like every other day. So you want to give your body a little bit of a rest in between. But I usually tailor them pretty specifically. I always tell people, and I'm like more of an optimistic person as well, but I always tell people it really is a commitment. I only see people 30, 45 minutes, an hour, and often just like once or twice a week. So you have to think about like your time in general. If I'm only seeing you for that amount of time, it really puts a lot of onus on yourself to work on certain things that I give as homework or tasks. And I think the biggest thing too is that it's kind of what you put into it. It's the effort that you put into it, and that's going to really highlight. Now, it really depends on the condition. But I would say for most people that I've treated, and not all of them, but most people I treat, it's often, again, like their function improves, often their pain improves as well. But some of the biggest things that we're working on is often like functional, like how are you able to improve like your ability to move, or is it easier to move within your home, or when you're walking, for example, or when you're doing activities with loved ones. I think the healthcare system in general is very reactive. And I think that's also just human nature, unfortunately, is pretty reactive. But I would say actually like a passion of mine is working on like seeing people that are more prehab or just preventative. I think if you can start seeing a physio earlier, when you start to notice even smaller signs of, let's say your balance has changed, or let's say you notice your walking has changed, or you have a little bit of pain, I would say it's usually better for you to come earlier rather than later. Because I often see clients that if I don't see them until, let's say, 6 months or a year down the road, their function has changed a lot because they're in a lot of pain now. They're not able to move as well. And so we're starting from a different baseline than maybe what you were at the beginning when your pain just started. Like, a lot of my expertise is with older clients. However, another part that I work quite a bit with is I have specialty in neurological conditions. So anything to do with like the nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord. So I do have a lot of experience treating clients post-stroke. So after a stroke, or I have experience as well treating clients after a spinal cord injury. Or I do see a lot of clients still with like MS or Parkinson's, for example. So that's another area of specialty. More than most people think they need to do more stretching, but actually a lot of times when people are complaining that their muscles are tight, it's also because their muscles are weak. And so I would also switch it and actually say that I would recommend strength exercises more so than stretches for the most part. It's just that oftentimes when a body's sensation or feeling of needing a stretch or feeling like they need to be more flexible, the stiffness is actually a reflection of not having as much strength. Not in all cases. I still do give people stretches, but I often find I often pivot and are focusing more on mobility or like range of motion as well as strengthening. And it's even like for some exercises, it's even body weight can be enough. You don't need a big gym or lots of dumbbells or weights at home. It's just even using your body weight as like resistance can be enough. So walking, I had a conversation with a client about this. Walking is a great exercise in terms of mental health, in terms of cardiovascular fitness. However, when we think about muscles, there's three kind of different types, or three ways I like to think about muscles. There's muscle strength, which is what you think of when you're able to in an exercise, maybe like 10 to 12 repetitions in a row before you're fatigued or before your quality changes. Then you think about power. So power is the ability to kind of quickly, so speed dependent, take that strength and use it. And then there's endurance. So endurance is more of that repetition, the long duration activity on your muscles. And that's when I think about walking. So walking is a great exercise, but it's not going to build up your strength. Yeah, so strength is more like doing a sit to stand without using your hands. It's doing a wall squat, for example. It's doing step ups. So stairs are actually a great exercise for leg strength, or it's doing a wall push up or a modified wall push up, or things like that are more strength based exercises, where walking is more of like an endurance thing. It's been a lot of fun. I was pretty apprehensive at first in the sense that I don't love driving. It's not my favorite thing to do in the world, which is ironic since I have to drive now for work. But I actually really like the mobile, or the driving piece hasn't been as bad as I expected. It's been really refreshing to visit people in their home. I find it changes the relationship that you have with clients, or the rapport that you have with clients. It also is a sense of, I guess, comfort or ability to kind of relate to people a bit more in their home and identify. I even sometimes make like environmental or suggestions to change home positions or equipment or furniture or things like that. So I think it's been such a privilege to be able to come and visit people in their home and then be able to treat them within their home.
Much better. It's been slow. And like when Rebecca came the first time, she said, this isn't going to be an instant fix. You're not going to be able to, walk, for an hour immediately, but slowly it's come along, and I can do things now that I can walk for at least 15 minutes without pain. And I know enough to get like good walking shoes or running shoes that I have. And I can, I know I have little habits that I've corrected, like not sitting with my legs crossed, things like that. So I feel much better. Just the convenience of having her come here to my house and not me having to drive somewhere, and especially just the daunting task of finding somebody. I think it's just the personalization of the whole thing. You know, Rebecca came in and she saw where I'm living. Like I do some exercises on my own stairs. I use my own dining room table. She showed me exercises that I can do in my kitchen when I'm getting things ready. Like I started off at my kitchen island doing some exercises, and it's, you know, usually 45 minutes where it's just her and me, and she, you know, can listen to my little, if I have a little twinge or an ache or something, she can watch me do it, and I don't feel it's interrupted. Like she's not, I found in other clinics sometimes like that the physio goes from my, you know, from me to someone else, and it's not 45 minutes dedicated just totally to me. And then she goes and I go about my day. You know, I don't have to drive anywhere. I just get to continue on. I do them because I know that's one of the things that she really emphasized, that you have to try and do the exercise. Plus, I know she's coming back and she holds me accountable to things. You know, there have been maybe a week or so when things have happened in your life, in my life, that I haven't been able to be as good at about, you know, completing the exercises, but I do them in the morning. It's like I can break them up too. She's really good about saying, you know, you do this one every day. You know, do it once in the morning and once at night, or this one happens every second day. So I kind of have a little routine in my head about when I need to do them. So get up in the morning, do my stair one, and then, you know, at night I'll lay down and do the ones like the planks or anything that she suggests. But I do it because I know she's coming back.
It's like the teacher.
I don't want her to be disappointed in me. Yeah, they're not easy. The one that slide plank one that I was checking with her when she first came, maybe about 2 or 3 times after the second or third visit, she tried to give me that one, and it was like I couldn't do it. I just said I can't. It just hurts. And so she just put it to the side, gave me some other things, and now I can do that one. But every one is a little bit painful. It's not like it, and that's how I know it's working. Like, I mean, not painful, but
now you can do them.
just now I can do them, and I feel a lot of, and that's another motivation, a little bit of joy and motivation in being able to do some of the things, making progress that you don't maybe see initially. There's one where it's called the Captain Morgan. You put the ball against the exercise ball against the wall. We didn't do that one today, but I do it every day, and that's like me balancing on my hip that's bad and keeping it stacked, and that's one that's been really helpful to me. And then also we do one on the stairs every day where I just go up one stair, down one stair with one leg, you know, leading, and that one has really built up, I think, a lot of strength in my leg. Well, I think because I have more, I can go up and down this, I can go do that stair exercise probably 15 times now, or 20. And when I started, I could only do 5 with my leg. My leg would be shaking, and I find it really difficult. But now I can probably do about 20 just step ups and back down again. So like that's another thing. I think, you know, we have a lot of time, because like when she's doing my whatever, she, you know, if she does a deep tissue massage or something like that, she talks to me about, you know, why this is happening and what my body's doing and how it's compensating for one thing or another. And then just that whole education about women and how our, you know, muscles, you know, sort of, you know, wane as we get older, I think. And then these things that we do even as grandmas, you know, picking up children and things that you used to be able to do very easily, you know, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, you can't. You have to change your ways of doing that. You know? So it's been a good education too.
And most conditions too, education is such a big part. And that was something that we talked about a lot more early on, is like lifestyle changes. So not only exercises, but trying to make little changes to your habits. So even the fact of like avoiding crossing your legs, which you don't notice until like you're doing it, or sometimes if you sit from a bit of a higher surface, that can ease some of the pressure off the tissues. And so little things like that can make a big difference. Or as we talked about, is are you able to reduce the amount that you're carrying your grandchild or your child and see if that changes the pressure. Because as much as I can give you all the exercises, it's going to honestly be the day-to-day things that are going to be most important. So
don't put it off. It will make such a difference to you, and you don't want to get it to a point like where I was, where it was, really hard to walk and very noticeable. If you notice something like that, I would say just go get it looked at. Have a consultation even, and get some exercises that can, set you on the right way without going through all the pain that's going to come later on, because it'll come.